and tickets are hard to come by. In fact, the Richmond Diocese actually had a lottery to pass out the handful of tickets they had for tomorrow's Mass. They're like Super Bowl tickets. Now, Curtis McLeod did have the opportunity to talk with some of the lottery winners who are so happy to be going tomorrow. This is the toughest ticket in town, isn't it, Curtis?
It is, Curtis. Very hard to come by these tickets, but you can call it luck for one Richmond woman who had the opportunity to simply put her name in the drawing, and she said she hoped for blessing.
I just saw an opportunity and thought, why not?
Good thinking on Megan McManus's part. She came across an ad in the Catholic Virginian for the Papal Mass Lottery, entered her name, and in her own words, hoped for a blessing. Thankfully, she and her husband won big. The prize? 2 tickets to witness the first ever canonization Mass on United States soil. To say they are excited would be an understatement.
Looking forward to seeing the canonization and just to be in his presence. I think he's just such an inspiration. I'm just really excited to see him.
This will be the second papal visit for Meghan. She had a chance to see Pope John Paul II while in Rome with her family more than a decade ago.
That was an amazing experience and something that I will never forget. And so I'm just blessed in so many ways that I now get to see Pope Francis first as well.
Already, Meghan and Chris are planning their trip. They have 2 young children that they are busily making arrangements for. Chris, a 5th grade teacher at St. Edward Epiphany School, says they have their family support.
We're just both, surprised and honored, and we feel very lucky to have this opportunity because not a lot of people will, have such an opportunity, so we're not taking it for granted.
Now, Meghan and her husband are planning to hit the road to D.C. early tomorrow morning. A lot of excitement, Kurt, surrounding this huge visit.
All right, thank you. That this is the live and let live Pope. He seems to take a compassionate stance on many controversial issues that are important to Catholic Americans. We'll talk more about that later. First, though, let's talk about tonight because, believe it or not, at this late hour, there are people all over the city who are rehearsing for the Pontiff's many events tomorrow. NBC 12's Curtis McLeod, he caught up with several of them, and we're talking about a big production here for Mass tomorrow, aren't we?
A very big production indeed, Kurt. Several people we spoke to while we were at Catholic University today say they are waiting anxiously for tomorrow's event. We even spoke with a friar who watched as everyone got ready for their final practices for the Mass. They say they're ready for this historic occasion. It is the dead of night and still a buzz at Catholic University. Police working steadily to get everything in working order for Wednesday's canonization Mass. Students and even a professor, Patrick Book, couldn't be happier about all the excitement.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, it's a great honor for the university, the Catholic University of America, to be hosting our Holy Father for his visit for his Mass here in D.C.
Just take a look behind me. We are here on Catholic University at the center of it all. This is where the Pope's Mass will take place tomorrow afternoon. Now, you'll see they are putting the finishing touches on everything and working right up until the last minute.
They probably started set up about a week ago. They've been just putting up these fences, putting up these bleachers, these screens. So it's been pretty hectic, a lot of security.
Rightfully so, to monitor and handle thousands that will make their way to the Basilica of the National Shrine for the Pope's Mass. Father John Paul will be among the crowd. He was on campus at Catholic tonight, watching as final practices took place.
I'm very excited to see the Pope and to see him in person. He's been such a great inspiration for so many people, and especially for me.
Father John Paul was ordained as a priest back in June. This is his first time seeing a pope in person, an occasion he's waited a lifetime to experience.
Someone who's so well loved throughout the world, to have him come here is a great honor. And very joyful.
Now, we will be out and about tomorrow, starting with the papal parade. So a lot of things going on, Kurt, that NBC 12 will be sure to be in part of all of those events.
All right, thank you. And it proved to be the most lasting image of this historic trip. Curtis McLeod was with the many thousands of people that were out there along the parade route today. And some of these folks, they were up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to get a place, and then they just hung out for 5 hours.
You're exactly right, Kurt. We caught up with some of those people who were there early in the wee hours of the morning. So exciting for all of them. I even got my hands on a piece of that excitement, a piece of the Vatican flag that they were giving out earlier during the Papal Parade. Spoke with some people who say that they are happy to be a part of this enjoyable experience, but at the same time, it's a bit overwhelming. They came by the thousands from all over the country just to catch a glimpse of Pope Francis. This is Father John Putnam's second papal parade, and he says the thrill and excitement never wears off.
This is part of history, so it's a wonderful opportunity to share with all the other Catholics that are here and just enjoy the visit.
Here in the shadow of the Washington Monument, thousands packed, watching and waiting anxiously as Pope Francis made his way down Constitution Avenue.
The famous Pope Mobile. Everyone wants to see that. And
everyone who lined the streets in front of the White House got a chance to see Pope Francis in his coveted Pope Mobile. John McWilliams got up early Wednesday morning to make sure he could have a good view. John is from California. He says being in the nation's capital for this moment, this papal visit and parade, he wouldn't trade for anything.
Overwhelming. Just to see the amount of people that have come out to just like support this person and like what he's sort of done and like what he said about the environment, about, you know, quality, about the poor. I think that sort of is really inspirational.
Now, as you saw in the video from that report, thousands of people on the National Mall today. And Kurt, you know, when you have a lot of people out for a pope, you know, a person, a public figure like the Pope, you know, you got to have some security. So in my live report on the news at 6, I'll talk a little bit about security measures that they've put in place here in the nation's capital to make sure that everyone remains safe.
All right, we look forward to that. Thank you, Curtis. Thousands in D.C. that are here for this historic papal visit that were out on the parade route today are learning that security here is pretty tight. And the people that are checking IDs are none other than the people who pat us down at the airport, the TSA. Curtis McLeod has that part of the story, and you were up. People were out on that parade route 5 hours in the middle of the night before this even got underway.
That's right, Kurt, and they had to be because it was an extensive process to get into the National Mall, and we know ourselves earlier we had to go through some screening process to get our credentials to even be able to cover the Pope, and we found out today that spectators were treated no different. We all know the saying, it's better to be safe than sorry. That old adage is the driving force behind these Secret Service and TSA officials who are working to make sure thousands in Washington for papal festivities remain safe.
Whatever they want to make everyone feel safe, make sure everything's safe, I'm happy to do.
Talk about an extensive security process to get even remotely close to Pope Francis. Take a look behind me here. You'll see metal detectors that people had to actually go through in order to get access to the National Mall where Pope Francis was going to be doing the papal parade, even going so far as having to go through some extensive bag checks.
I think it's kind of sad that they have to do that, but I'm happy to comply with anything.
Robin Stewart and her aunt were two of thousands on the National Mall Wednesday, but before they could get inside, they had to go through security checkpoint. It's a mirror image across town at the National Shrine where the Pope is holding Mass. We were on campus as security swept the area, making final checks the day before the service. Brian Toro says the security sweep isn't as strict as others.
It wasn't too bad. Wasn't nearly as bad as, say, JFK or London Heathrow on a Saturday afternoon.
When going through security checkpoints, cell phones had to be powered on, and all items had to be removed from pockets. Jackets and bags were not spared either.
I said when we walked in, if they ask me to look in my bag is open. They tell me not to stand here, I don't stand there.
Now, all of this, of course, being done in good spirits to make sure that everyone remains safe, Kurt, while the Pope is on American soil.
All right, Curtis McLeod, thank you very much.